Greetings everyone, Lumberg here, really excited to present this little research deep dive that I've been working on. I've done a deep dive on long-range attack before, but this one's a little bit more comprehensive and it's been updated because we now have a lot more sources of it. This one goes a little further. We're going to do a deep dive into long-range attack here in red, Melee HP here in red, and then we're going to also look at the multiplicative stats, which are here in purple, the increased damage to the different three types of troops, and then the reduction or reduces damage from the three different types of troops. So the one in purple is the multiplicative stats. So these are most important in terms of just the core percentage. And, 1% means a lot more than, the additive stats of 1% HP or 1% LRA. And this is the traditional build. We're going to focus on the traditional build. So in this analysis, we're going to go through a couple of things. We're going to look at the sources of all the different types of places where you can get LRA, all the different places where you can get melee HP, as well as where you can get these coveted increase and decrease damage, which is very different from, enemy long-range attack reduction. Those are additive stats. Everything on here is additive except for the ones in purple. So let's dive deeper. So of course there's going to be a toolkit. And this is one that I've been working on for quite a while now and have made it comprehensive and have tested it out with myself, tested it out with a monster. And then what I'm really excited about is what I've shown you based on kind of where the game is in terms of all the different sources, what is the maximum possible LRA and the maximum possible melee HP, as well as the increase and reduce damage percentages. So here, this, like every other video I have, will be available. The link to this will be in the description below. You can, of course, save this as your own, save it as an Excel if you want an image. This is going to be for people that want to kind of see, where to spend their money, where to spend their efforts, and see how far they are from, the maximum. And it's very enlightening. So hopefully you'll enjoy this journey with me. So here in this schedule, for everything in here, you can basically expand this to put your own stats in, and then you can see and you can type in your stats. You can expand it here to kind of, write down where you are. So for instance, this is where I started with. I was at 859 here, and then I calculated that number. So that's how I know how close I am. So you can start off with these, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Where can you find these stats? Of course, these stats, there's three different stats that I put in here, and they are what is in your stats when you go into your player settings and look at your stats. What is when you attack somebody in the mine? So that would be cross nation. What is your cross nation stats? Then what if you attack, like, let's say a farm or another player, another city in your own nation? That would be siege. And then finally, what would be something in an event like void, where you would have siege in another city, or frenzy, where you're attacking another city in your own nation or the enemy nation, where there's cross-nation stats added. And we're going to talk about those briefly. So the base stats, of course, you can see very simply by going into your account. And if you go into down here in My Info, right, at the bottom right corner, and you go into stats right here on the bottom left corner. So this is where you can see all these different stats, and this used to be a smaller list. Now it's just gotten insanely long, but here you can see this is your base stat, meaning this applies in every single place. And then of course, in one of those base stats, there is going to be one of the fields will be what is your cross nation attack. If you look at base stats, and let's say if you look at any of these cross nation stats here, for instance, you can see here that my LRA cross nation is 17. So the difference between your base stats, that would be here LRA, plus the 17 will get you to your cross nation stats. Now, mind you, this spreadsheet, it was done, before I've done some of the updates, so it won't tie exactly, but all the pictures here should tie. So in order to go from your base stat, which we just saw in My Info, to go to your mines, you would basically just add the cross nations. In order to go from your when you attack a farm, you would go to base stat plus siege attack, for example, Panda and other places where you can have siege attack. That would get you your siege. Siege means when you're attacking another city. And then finally, when you're doing cross nation siege, that's the most you can get. So based on these calculations and based on looking at all the different sources, what are these different sources, right? So there is 18 different sources of places where you can get either long range attack, and you could do this analysis for mid range, but I've focused on the traditional build for most players. So what are those sources? It's basically in your skill tree you can select commander skills in war. Mostly everybody will have this. This is just progress as long as you've gotten further along and your city has gotten further along. Level 30 academy and all the research will give you 22.5, so most people will have this. So if you look at these comparisons, this is the maximum available. You can put U in here. I'm just going to minimize the U because we don't have your stats in there. This is a monster from that I've used to do the research, and then this is my stats here. And then another source that you can see is going to be a big part is going to be your elite equipment, but not all of the equipment gives you those stats. So I've listed just which equipment gives you what at maximum, right? Then extensions, not all extensions give it, but then which extensions give it. And you'll notice the color coding here. The green is going to be all LRA stats. The blue is going to be melee HP. And then the yellow is going to be the damage, increased damage or reduced damage. Those are the multiplicative stats, so very important. Of course, you can get these extensions, the reinforcement extension and the... I need to change the name here, so I will change that. I think one is reinforcement, something else is called the other one, but I will change that name. So if we keep going, you can see then there's the comprehensive one that has both attack components as well as HP. And then, of course, your biggest source of LRA and melee HP is going to be in your officers, right? So these are all the different officers that you can have. I've just set this to the standard officers. Of course, you could have some variants, like if you used another one of the purple officers, that would be Kingsley, and some people do use it. You would have some different stats here. So for each one of these, their base skill is here, and then what are some of the 6 stars that can get you these coveted stats. So all of your officers, and then Titans is really important because some of the talents give you these stats. So it's really important to know which one. For example, the female Titan, Queen Majesty, gives you the coveted increased, let's take a look. The increased damage to long range attacks if you look at the talents and you look at this one right here, Queen Majesty, this is, it goes maximum to level 20. So you get the maximum 20%. So that's a big deal because this is a multiplicative stat. Then if you look at the male Titan, he also has one, but he's at, I think it's at orange level. So at orange level, this one, whoops. I apologize. It's not a skill, it's the male core. It's in the Titan equipment that gives you increased damage to mid-range, right? So in the female one, we had this stat, and then that was fixed with male equipment. So in male equipment, you will find that, which we'll take a look at. So if I just go back to the male Titan, we're going to look at his equipment. And then if you look at the core, right here, that is the one that is giving you increased damage to mid-range mid-range troops from your troops. So after Titans and equipment, this is comprehensive. So I've listed these, and then we're now going to come to the island. So island is your worst source in terms of being the most expensive, yet offering the least, right? So the island true benefits is in the orange items when you get those really nice skills, but everything else stat-wise isn't going to add up to much. And you can see that in the stats that it's adding compared to everything else. And we have a summary here at the bottom that lists you by those 18 categories. And percentage-wise, where are you? So for example, at maximum stat, you can see the island is only giving 2.2%. That's nothing. And for me, my island, I don't really spend much. It's giving me 0.1%. So I think I'm doing a good job of actually not spending where it doesn't give you that much benefit. So your biggest bang, and you'll see it down here, that even for the maximum account, the bread and butter is going to be the officers, the equipment, and extensions, these three. And then everything else is small. So that's really where you want to focus it on, is those officers, those 6-star skills, and equipment. Equipment even is very hard to kind of get there, but officers is where it's at, and these numbers don't lie. So the next source will be, so in this island, I kind of looked at all the different top player islands to see what's the maximum level that they had to come up with the stats. So if you click on your island here, here at the top right corner, you can actually just click on this little bar here at the top right corner, and it gives you an overview of all of your stats that you have. And this is essentially where you can look at your island. Now, you can't see other people's island. You can see them, you can visually see them, but you would have to actually click in and see these. So this is where you'll see where those small stat additions are. And I've added that for my city as well as the monster, and then figured out what the maximum would be from other people. And you can see other people's islands when you go into this top right corner, the second one, right? Not the 3 dots, but the bar chart here, and that will show you in your globe who has the best or the most, who has spent the most money on this island for, But even when you go into your island and you look at these details, you can see when you click on the guide here at the top right corner, the main things that people spend island for is the top tier players, and what they're getting really is these skills, right? So this live house skill, the basketball court skills, the movie theater skills, like these are these orange items, but they're extremely expensive to get. So I don't really recommend these for the average players, and even for the players that are trying to save some money. You can still be very competitive without those. Don't fall into that caveat. So if we go back to the list, island, really you're not getting a lot of your stats. You are getting some of those skills, but those aren't for 99.9% of the players. Badges, very small gain, and you can see here it's only the assault badge that gives LRA and the loyalty badge that gives Melee HP. The maximum level I think that we've seen is 14. That's all you get, 6.6%. VIP, it's pretty good to keep it activated. There's many other benefits for it, but you really don't get HP until VIP, I think 12 or 13 and above. So I get 22% at VIP 11. I'm pretty happy with that. At VIP 15, which you spend gobs of money, it only gets you 4 more percent LRA, but it does give you some nice HP boost. Your alliance technology, it's ours is at 13.5. I think I asked around. Looks like the maximum is 14. Maybe it's gone to 15 now, but or 14.5. Sorry. Merit rank is actually pretty decent because it gives you a nice fleet size as well as these stats. So keep getting that merit. But the highest that we've seen, I think some people on World 1 are 30 as a brigadier. This one you can't really buy with money, so it's just depending on how active you've played Chaos Land, how many events you've done, and how long you've been playing. Prosperity, you want a maximum is 15, so that's pretty easy. Alliance benefit buildings, this is the maximum. You get 10 and 10 for each. Alliance events, so these are ones where they're temporary, right? So you can get like the many different group buying, the alliance treasure hunt, statues from your duel of dominance, and you can actually get up to 3%. So if you ever look at these numbers and say, hey, look, Lumberg, I saw some people with higher stats. There are events and temporary boosts like Triangle that will give you these stats that get you even close to 100. However, this is your base without those temporary boosts. What is the maximum you can get? 75.5 is the maximum damage to LR troops. And 70.5 maximum to mid-range. Maximum damage reduction is 85.5 for each, and we're going to talk about that. And why focusing on those heroes and that stat is really important. So anywhere where you see a yellow, that's where you want to make sure you get that 6-star for that officer. Damage reduction from melee is not that important. The most important one is damage reduction from long range, then mid-range, because most players are long range. And the most important one is increases damage to long range, because most players are long range, and to mid-range. Melee, again, not that important, but still damage to melee is important so that you can get past that melee defense or that layer that is going to get you to those long-range troops. So reduced damage is only available. There's no increased damage in 6-star skills, but the reduced damage from long-range troops is available for 2 heroes, Aeon and Alexandria, and those are amassed. So if you're going to spend those are the rarest to get too, based on what people have seen and what we've looked at, what I've seen myself. So if you are going to spend skill books, so for example, my plan is to use 300 skill books to get an SS damage reduction for LR when I get these to 5-star. You can't select the skill until you get it to 6-star. And this may be the only 2 ones where it is worth spending 1,000 books to get it, right? So I wouldn't recommend that for LRA, but this is where you should spend it. Reduce damage from long range. Katie is pretty useless except for the fact that her 6-star skills does have a opportunity to get LRA and Melee HP. So you should try to aim to get that. Don't be dazzled by the enemy attack reduction. Those are additive stats, meaning if you have 1,000 LRA, it would be 1,000 plus 30. But the ones that you really should focus on is the yellow everywhere that I have a yellow here. Same thing with the Titan, the male, and the female Titans. Saki has some amazing breakthrough skills. So she has that at level 18, you get the 18% boost for both attack and HP. So Saki is a great hero. Island, need I say more? It's just you're getting really, really small boosts, even at the maximum level. Look at where I am, very, really small. Look at this monster, even with a monster spending, it still doesn't reach some of these maximum level. And these are, no one player has this, but many players at different levels that have focused on these. That's where I got the stats from. Badges, so really heroes is the way you want to focus on it. There is some sections here where I put in, titles. Those are temporary. City decorations were temporary. This actually took me a long time to figure out where the heck it was coming from. And so some of these titles or some of the skin decorations and even your cart decoration actually gives some stats. So those are some of the various places where you can get it. Of course, you can use a temporary attack boost or an HP boost to get these stats higher. So based on all this analysis, this is where I came up with. So why is this important? Why you want to put in your own stats here is to see how far you have to grow in those areas, and it will help you kind of focus where can I get some potential growth, and you'll find out intuitively and objectively here that you're going to find a lot of growth in your officers and your 6-star skills, and pretty minimal opportunities in Island, right? So let's then do the big question. What is the maximum LRA that you could have? The maximum LRA that you could have based on my calculations would be 1689. Now this doesn't include some of the extra boost that you could get from events or Chaos Land. So you'll see some crazy stats in Chaos Land because those come up with their own boost, where you can get the boost for tickets or Duel of Dominance. So keep that in mind, that if you see numbers above these, it's because it's in those special events. Now, the maximum Melee HP actually can be pretty high. I've calculated 1751. Now that assumes that your 2 skills that you can select on an officer is going to be Long Range Attack, Long Range Expert, and Melee HP. Of course, it can be higher if you chose Melee Expert, right? But it doesn't make sense except for if you were a Melee player like Flex, right? So Flex is a Melee player, and so of course he's going to select Melee HP and Melee Expert, so he's going to get even more. Now, there is a flaw in my calculation in the 6-star skills. I think the Melee is a little overstated, meaning it's not possible for you to have both that high amount, because in some places I am assuming 6 different 6-star skills, which you can't. You can't have LRA 6-star, and Siege Attack, as well as Siege HP, Melee HP, and Cross Nation. So in the preference of these skills, I think Cross Nation is what matters the most. You get higher Cross Nation total than you do the normal skills. So Cross Nation is probably preferred. However, Cross Nation applies everywhere. Normal applies everywhere. Cross Nation only applies at Cross Nation. But because most of the events that you're going to face is against other worlds, that Cross Nation is where it's at. So Melee HP is slightly overstated because you're not going to be able to get the Siege HP. This does kind of allude to the fact that Siege Attack is not a bad 6-star skill, so try to get that Siege Attack one, because it does add up when you're going to try to attack somebody in Void, in a city. So, and you can see it here clearly in these stats that the maximum that you can see on your stat page is only 1252. That's because the cross nation is a large number, which will show up in a separate number in the stats. That will get you to 1588 of a maximum. And then for siege, which doesn't include cross nation, but it includes panda, the inherent skill for panda, and siege attack, right? Those 6-star skills. So that will add up. And then, cross nation, mines, and own nation siege they include things that are not common because, only the base stat is common. Cross nation and siege isn't. And then in the last one, cross nation and siege is combined. So that's the maximum possible that you can see. So when you're looking at a report in the mine, remember siege won't work. When you're looking at a report in a city, it's expected to be higher, especially if it's during void. But if it's within the same nation, you're not going to see much higher than that LRA, 1353. And then for HP, the same concept applies. And then for the multiplicative stats, which is the damage increase and reduction, these are all assuming that you have that 6-star skill at triple S and maximum, and you have all of the extensions maxed out. That is the damage increase and reduction extensions, the middle extensions, and it also assumes you have the triple S skill, which is very, very hard to get maxed out. This is hopefully going to be helpful to you guys. Sorry I ranted on for a long time, but this is going to be available. Let me know if I've missed something or if you have any improvements or suggestions, and I'll do my best to keep coming up with good toolkits and ways for you guys to see where to focus on, and where is the source, where is your LRA coming from, and what is, if you can see here, if the maximum available is, or let's just take a look at this, right? So if I looked at it, I really focused on increase attack, damage reduction, and damage increase. And so let's take a look at my Zeus. So his inherent skill is 25.5% reduction, which is a huge source of that. I'm at 22.65 because mine isn't 5-star yet. It's at level 55, but 4.4 stars. So once I get to 5-star, guess what? I'm going to get that 2.35, and I'll be, close to higher. I did max out my Alexandria. So look, I'm at 25. So there's no more room to grow there. I've maxed out, her to level 55. There's nothing to grow in my skills. Expert, I do have some room to grow, but very little. A lot of improvement in melee HP because I haven't really put much into those melee HP skills. So that's where you can see that you can get a lot of bang for your buck. And then finally, I don't have any 6-star skills, so that's where I'm going to try to get these up. So you're going to see a huge opportunity when you look at your officers, where you are, what are your 6-star skills, and how far are we away from in the maximum. And then you also know what's attainable and what's not. So just to illustrate here, you can see that I have a lot of opportunity for melee HP, right? And you can even see from the skill books that I can easily get 5% from increasing that. If I used all of these skill books for, some other skill, let's say long range attack, I don't get as much, right? So I'm only getting 1% LRA versus 5% melee HP. So that way you can see what are some of the benefits of doing that. Hopefully you'll find that analysis useful. As usual, thank you for all the support. Thank you for keeping watching my videos and subscribing and the comments. Really do appreciate it. Good luck to everybody in Global Conquest, in finals that have made it. And I look forward to our Global Conquest as well. Take care.